Casa Amor may be Love Island's most controversial twist, but it's also one of the most revealing. Because every season, couples who spent weeks building a connection are suddenly separated and introduced to a group of attractive new singles. Some relationships survive, others fall apart almost immediately, which raises an interesting question. Does absence really make the heart grow fonder, or does distance simply reveal what's already there? So today we're using Love Island USA as a case study to explore how distance can test a relationship. And relationship coach Heather Melville is back to help me unpack it all. Heather, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back. I love our conversations.
So do I, and I cannot wait to dive into this one. So let's get right into it because, I think most of us have heard at some point in our lives that absence does make the heart grow fonder. But from your perspective, is that actually true? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I actually loved the way you put it. Or does distance, remind me again, or does distance
simply reveal what's already there? Yeah.
So I think that's the phrase. Now it can lead towards your love gets more empowered, more you realize how much you want this person in your life, how this person is the first person you want to mention anything to when something happens, or you see the patterns of what's been going on. Now, I have experience in both directions. So with my previous partner, which it was not a very good relationship, it was very unhealthy and has fueled my career change and business in the sense that I want to help others. But I moved to Germany for 6 months, and that was a test of does absence make the heart grow fonder? For me, that showed me a lot of the patterns that I was stuck in. I had that distance to step back, take the rose-colored glasses off, and realize what was going on. Also to shed light on myself that I had been putting myself down. I wasn't really stepping into my authenticity and not really challenging myself to realize who I was. The other time I've experienced this is actually with my relationship. Me and my fiance started out dating where we didn't live. Like when we first met, I was down in Tucson for an internship. So I got to spend, quite a bit of time with him. But then I moved back to Flagstaff, which was 4 hours away. So we would kind of commute back and forth. And that allowed me to kind of see that, oh, I really do care for this person. Whenever I'm thinking about something or in my day, I can't wait to tell this person or hear what's going on in their life. So it really shed the light on how much I really cared about this person. So I think the way you said it is perfect, is the distance allows you to see for the patterns. Are these patterns of, my affection is really growing? Because sometimes we'll try and deny that, right? We're too scared. And I did. I tried to deny that I was starting to feel for this person because I was like, oh, am I ready for a relationship? Or, oh my gosh, these are some very toxic patterns and I didn't see them because I was stuck in it neurologically, or I didn't see how I am with this person. So I think you hit it with that second phrase there.
Interesting. Okay. So you think that the distance is just revealing what's already there. It just amplifies the dynamic that's already there.
Right. Yeah. So distance does make the heart grow fonder, but it also, depending on the dynamic of the relationship, bring things to light as well.
Yeah, it can shine a spotlight. I definitely hear what you're saying there, because the other expression that I was going to also bring up in this conversation is out of sight, out of mind. Because I've also seen that happen as well, where literally this person or people involved, they seem to have no object permanence. Like if you're not there, they're just not thinking about you. It's like children, they just don't have that permanence.
They just didn't know if you're going to come back or not.
Yeah, you're just not there. So I've seen that too, but you don't exist. You literally do not exist. And we'll get into maybe some of that dynamic that we may or may not have seen in Casa Amor this season. But I totally agree with you that distance is a really interesting barometer in terms of like the dynamic itself. And you mentioned that for you, the distance with your current partner, it helped you to see that, oh, actually, this is kind of my person. Like, this is the person that they're home. Like, they're my home base. I want to be with them. I want to be near them. And I wonder as well, too, how does distance impact, in this case, like, let's say it's a healthy relationship. Like, how can the distance actually help a relationship to grow.
Well, and I actually have experienced that. I've seen other relationships where like it's not like taking a break where we're going to go see other people. It's just taking a break from being the dual that you are, because that's a big thing with relationships is oftentimes we think we have to sacrifice ourselves and become a we and stop being an I and me. But actually a healthy relationship is where you are a we unit, but you always remain a me and I. Because it comes down to, if I don't take care of myself, I cannot take care of you. So if I lose me, if I meld into us, we're not even going to be as strong about us because I'm not taking care of me. And I think we lose this idea. We think that, when it comes to love, we've just got to sacrifice ourselves. The priority is the relationship. But it has to be a balance. It has to be a balance of a priority of making sure I stay alive, because we're not going to be a we if I'm dead. Not that, going to the extreme, that if I'm not bathing, eating, or, I'm so focused. But really, the relationship won't thrive if I just become you, because how boring would a relationship be if like all my likes, hobbies, everything, my opinions are the same as yours? It's just like you're just living with a duplicate.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I know there are some people that may disagree with us on this, that may actually go, no, I want the person to be exactly like me. And in the previous conversation we had about compatibility versus chemistry, I think some people, and I'm not suggest that may be what works for them, but that they feel like we have to be in sync in every conceivable way and together all the time. And that I feel like what you just said about, remaining an independent person in a situation where you're also thinking about the we. I think, for me anyways, I feel that might be a lot of the tension that is there in relationships, full stop, romantic or otherwise, is like, how do I maintain a sense of who I am, a sense of self, and be authentic to who I am? And then also I'm considering this other person, this other individual, as well as like, the we is like a separate entity almost that you're considering, but never swallows who you are. That's what I'm kind of hearing you say, right?
And that's where I think the distance, like having those breaks, actually reminds you of that. So like recently we were supposed to have a talk, and I had to go up to beautiful Vancouver and Vancouver Island for family stuff. And so I did have a break for my fiance. He had to stay here and work. And, it's one of those things of like, I still love this relationship. I still, and again, love, that distance makes the heart grow fonder, in the sense that, yes, I still choose this relationship. There's all these opportunity out, but I am still choosing this relationship. But also, I'm still being me. I'm still doing the things I want to do. I took myself out to dinner. I had a big thing of bone marrow. And of course, always when I'm in Canada, I have to have poutine. And I had duck poutine. Oh, gosh. Sorry for anybody who is vegetarian or doesn't like any of those things. But for me, I loved it. So, but yeah, I totally think that, distance is what's going to also, and it doesn't have to be like a whole trip. And I do think it doesn't have to be like this long thing, but making sure you maintain your hobbies. Like, even if that's once a night, or not once a night, once a week, going for a dancing class or an art class or something you like to do, or hanging out with your friends, it's still maintaining that individual, because it makes the we stronger.
Yeah, it gives you something to talk about, I would think, too. Right? Yeah, like if you're living a life that's rich, you have something to talk about. Like I personally, I would feel, if I was always with my person, it's like, I don't need to ask how your day was. You're with me all the time.
I was there. All the time. I was there.
I was there. I saw it. I experienced it. I was there. So I think there's something practical about it too. But and I do want to get to our couples. I do want to get to Casa Amor, but I just love this conversation. Let's just sit and marinate it for a second, because I'm of two minds. One, definitely, I agree. Distance can definitely make the heart grow fonder in a dynamic that's already somewhat healthy.
Right.
Right. Like it can actually force you to, as you said, earlier, look at yourself, look at your patterns, look at your habits, look at the other person's habits, patterns. I think it's an opportunity as well to figure out like how you communicate, because this is the thing. if you are in a long distance relationship, for any of our listeners, watchers who have been in one, you know what I'm talking about. I felt like, and I've been in a few of them actually, for varying degrees of time, but the longest one was probably a year. And so I knew I was in Australia. My partner at the time was in Toronto. Like, we knew we were going to come back to each other. But for that year, we were I think our communication was good before, but it was excellent when we were gone.
Oh, that's lovely.
Because we spent more time, obviously trying to communicate through digital means, and we obviously had that massive time difference as well. We had to be more intentional, I guess is what I'm saying. It's like the communication had to be intentional. And I think sometimes people can take that for granted. We have so many ways to connect that we don't connect at all. And I think that that's one of the things that if someone's just there all the time, maybe the communication sometimes, even between the two most stellar communicators on the planet, you can sometimes take for granted that you still have to be curious about each other and experience things that you can bring to the relationship. So yeah, I love where your head's at with
I just love everything you just said too, because you're right. Like, if I'm with you all the time, what am I curious about now? Because I already know it. And coming back to that, it's so funny because I've always talked, well, not always, but I have been asked, like, oh, do you think you'd write a book? And I have an idea. It's not coming to fruition yet, but it's about getting curious, being curious with your partner. And I love that you hit that so much. And then there was something else that you just said, and I loved it too, of just like being intentional with your communication. Because do I just text my person and be like, hey, thinking of you? Is that for me or is that for you? Is that for you to know that I'm there? And am I really thinking about you? Or am I just saying this because you expect it? And so I love this idea of intentional, because so my experience, and sorry to keep going, but my experience in Germany with my previous partner, he expected to talk 4 to 5 hours on the phone every day. And I'm like,
wow,
well, I'm in another country, time difference. And did I just come over here to be on the phone, or did I come over here to explore? And how much of this is just you like needing whatever? What about, like, are you really wanting to talk to me? What is this? And then the other side with me and my fiance, and it's funny because I've actually had a friend ask me this, and this is where I was going to touch with any of your viewers who are in a long distance relationship. There is no set rule of how often and in what way you should be talking to each other. It's how you feel. Do you want to hear a good morning text every day? Then communicate that that's what you expect. But like, there's no set rule there. Because I had a friend ask me that. Well, how often do you guys talk? Well, we send, especially when we're away from each other, we send texts. But like, when you're expecting me to send a good morning text every day, but then you get mad at me because I'm not like putting my heart into it, or you can see that it feels robotic. Well, yeah, because you're expecting it from me. So it's not out of me doing it because I'm thinking about you. It's because you're expecting me to do it. So, it's having that balance. And I like that you said intention. I think that's so right.
Yeah, I'm triggered when I hear the good morning thing, because I've had conversations with people about this, and we can talk about that maybe another time. It's actually triggered me, because the good morning text, I think it is a beautiful thing. But to your point, when it becomes an obligation, I think for both parties, you can feel it. You can feel that it's a spray and pray situation. It's like, it feels like you're getting blasted from like a, I don't know, like a multi-level marketing company or something. It has all that kind of a charm around it.
It's like your daily vitamin. Oh, it's 9 o'clock. Yep. Better take my daily vitamin. Better send my daily good morning text,
Right. It's the intentionality around it. Because anyway, intentionality, big deal. I think in most things around relationships, intentionality. But since we're talking today specifically about the question around absence and does it make the heart grow fonder, I wanted to also bring it back to the Casa Amor question, because we just spent a little bit of time talking about our experiences with long distance and how distance can help or hinder a relationship based on the underlying dynamics. I think that's where we're at. But when it comes to the show, so the show itself, and by the way, this is your spoiler alert. If you are watching Love Island USA season 8 and you prefer not to be spoiled, I am going to talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened around Casa Amor. So here is your warning. Feel free to click off and come back after you watch it if that's what your heart speaks to you. But I wanted to just say, because the way they did Casa this year was very different. This is one of the things that's made it a point of conversation online. Just to bring everyone to the fold, because I know we're on different episodes of this season, Heather. Casa Amor this year, the producers separated the men and the women, as they always do, but they did it in such a manner that the women didn't realize that they were going to be going to Casa Amor. So it's like they're announcing the Hearts Racing Challenge, where they get dressed up in these sexy costumes and then basically lap dance on each other to try to get everyone's heart to raise. They set that up. And then while the girls were getting ready, the boys also got a text saying, oh, by the way, you're going to Casa Amor. So the women come down to the villa dressed in their, of course, their
stunning outfits,
sluttiest Halloween costumes.
Oh, it's funny.
and it's like, I think at that point they realized there are no guys here, but there is a large television in the middle of their villa. And the villa television is set to live stream the boys in Casa. Yes. Casa Amor.
Oh my God.
So the girls are sitting there watching as the guys are getting bounced on, danced on. They're making out. They're grabbing handfuls of tea and a. It was diabolical. Whoever that producer is. Let's not take a minute to salute you, sir or madam, because you saved the show. It was the absolute diabolical. The fact that they did that, the boys, of course, didn't know. So they were saying and doing all sorts of things. So that's the context behind Casa Amor. So we saw multiple couples that were tested throughout. So what I kind of want to do is I kind of want to get your general opinion, Heather, because in fairness, I know you haven't seen it yet. Okay. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think Casa Amor is really testing? Why do they put that into the show? Because I think the producers must have something in mind when they introduced Casa Amor. What do you think Casa Amor is testing?
Well, it's funny because I actually, I'd been watching Love Island, back in the first seasons, and I don't really remember Casa Amor. So I was like, oh, is this a new thing? But then you're saying that they do this a lot. So I'm like, okay, maybe either I stopped watching or this has been new. But that's so interesting. What are they testing? Because are they testing that? And we've already seen this a little bit, especially because, I'm still behind, but we've already seen this a little bit, that these couples say that we're so strong, but yet they haven't been tested, or they've been shut down for new bombshells. And then again, going back to the name of the game, that this is to explore. And it's so funny because I think what's probably the big issue here is actually our definition of couples. Because when they say, oh, you're coupling up, does that mean we're exclusive now and that I can't explore? Oh, but we're dating and we're exploring, but that doesn't mean that I don't want to be with you, So I'm wondering if it's just another chance to see that, to see hey, you said you were going to explore, you've shut it down. And I'm speaking specifically with Casey here. I was going to talk about this because there was a conversation with Kata and Zach, and they talked about, and it felt so casual and so easy. And they said yeah, if another bombshell comes in and we're attracted, we're going to explore and we'll be tested. And it was just so you're right. Matter of fact, that's what it is, and then, then hearing all of these again. So since I'm so behind, I'm only reflecting on what we've really seen. And then the way they talked about Gabe and why they got rid of him, because he was playing the game. He was part of the game, but they didn't know if he had a real connection, if he was just waiting for something better. And it's well, am I waiting for something better? I don't know. I'm still fairly new with this person. But then that goes back to our conversation about how quickly connection can be made, because we're on the outside thinking, 2 days, come on, seriously, get your stuff together, relax, chill out. You're not moving in together. But then also understanding that it's 2 days of waking up next to each other, seeing each other all day. And you brought up a good point no other distractions. They don't have phones. They don't have TV. They don't have, sports events or hobbies or, other friends to go see. It's them there the whole time, 24/7. So the connection is faster. And that's also what I find interesting, and we can tie it back into long distance relationships, because, when you come to each other, usually you're like, so I'm calling from my own example. Like, I would come to see my fiance down here, and it would be 3 days that we get to spend. And it's just like, we're here together 3 days every hour, so intense, versus if we lived in the same city. This week we have a date for 2 hours. Maybe next week or in 2 weeks, we have another 2-3 hour date, so it's like that rapid time happening. And like, it's so interesting. So to answer your first question, I think it's just testing to see if like this is a real connection. Have you been closing yourself off and not really exploring, from my perspective? I still haven't seen it yet. So now I'm just like, what is it?
Yeah, I can't wait for you to watch it. But even without having seen it, I think you are, aware generally that they're going to bring in a bunch of hot, singles, and any person would be like, oh wow, the novelty alone, just like the dopamine hit you're getting from like, oh my God, there's all these beautiful women coming in, and they're, and this is the thing, and they want me. Because their whole function coming in as a bombshell is that I'm here to steal your man.
Right.
And that's the energy they're coming in with. So I also, you mentioned KC. I don't know if you were going to expand on KC, because I want to talk about him.
I don't know if I did. Well, I think, well, maybe I didn't. But anyways, I just think, especially at the last end, the part where they vote off Soul, and he didn't want to vote her off, but he never really gave her a chance. And for Soul, I felt so bad, because she's absolutely right. Everybody was coupled off, and they were, going to have conversations, but it was just like, like, you're cool, I'll get to know you, but I'm still really focused here. But at the same time, you can't blame them, because maybe they found a really powerful connection. They've been in there from the beginning, so it is difficult. But then, like, so it's funny too that I talk about Casey, but I also had some comments about Sincere during all of that.
Boy, we don't even have enough time, but we have to get into him too.
I say that Casey, like, I think he just did himself a disservice, because he was honest that he wasn't going to explore, but like, he wasn't honest to himself that he wanted to explore. And I think Anaya and him have a great connection, but you didn't give yourself the chance to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I do think they had a connection. I think, and this is what I was going to say about Casey, is that in Casey's specific situation, if you remember the first day, him and Anaya were like sort of like the leftovers, if you want to say. And I think that has given him a huge complex. I think he's still not over that.
Yeah.
So I feel as if depending on, we said this earlier, the dynamic of the couple before they get torn apart, I think that will also make a difference in how they move.
Right.
So, what you have seen with Casey kind of saying like, I maybe would explore Soul if Soul stayed, but Soul ends up going. Now in his mind, he's thinking, I haven't had this chance to really have the Love Island experience.
Right.
So if you were to guess, if what you know now based on the dynamic between Anaya and KC, if KC were to go to Casa Amor and return to the villa, what's your prognosis if you're a doctor and this thing is you're trying to give it a chance of survival beyond Casa Amor? What, based on what you know already, do you feel like this is a couple that would stay together, or would they stray? So we're going to play a game of stay or stray. And again, people, if you're watching going, but we already know this. So Heather, you haven't seen it yet. So you're basing it based on solely the dynamic that you've seen in the villa up until now.
Oh, there's pressure.
Yeah, see? So Casey, do you think he's going to stay or stray?
Oh, that's tough. Because just of what we talked about. And then I forgot the other complex of the reason he also didn't kind of pursue Soul is because it reminded him of his ex. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe he had bad feelings towards that. But yeah, going back to, well, I didn't have the experience. And now, feeling like he's already chained to Anaya, but they've already chosen each other many times. And his love letter, which I really love that. I don't know if they've been doing that previously, but that was just, I was crying. So I'm going to say he strays. I
thought, okay.
Are you going to burst?
Okay, you think he strays?
Yeah.
Well, so I will tell you what happens if you want it to be spoiled. That's interesting. So the lead up to it, I thought you were working to say.
I switched it.
Interesting. You switched it up on me. So that's okay. So you think he strays?
Well, because I think he's now questioning himself in the sense of, he didn't test it, even though he has strong feelings for Anaya. But then now he's like, well, are they really strong, or is it just because I was feeling safe?
Okay, so bingo bango. Okay, so basically, just to spoil this up and down, he does stray.
Yes,
and
I win.
He does stray. Yes, you win. And boy, does he stray. So one of the reasons why I think, and to relate it back to our whole premise here around distance and does absence create fondness, I think when he got to Casa Amor, there was distance there, but to the point that you were kind of making earlier, the relationship with Anaya, it seemed to be slightly hit or miss. There's some wonderful moments, but punctuated with some difficult conversations. And I think once he got there, he saw like beautiful new ladies, and one in particular was in there for him. Like came in, her whole package was, I'm here for Casey, and she let it be known. And I think that's what Casa Amor is doing too. I think Casa Amor is, these producers are, as I said, they're diabolical. I think they went and they picked people based on, the pre-interviews with this cast. What do you fancy? Right. And if someone tells me, well, I like tall, brunettes.
And then show me a picture of all of your exes.
Right. Show me a picture, a dossier of all of your exes and your fears. And then, of course, like they introduce all that stuff in. It's like, and so I have to assume that they pick this person or people, obviously because they're all beautiful, stunning singles, but they came in with a kind of one-to-one. Like, who would Bryce go for? Who would Zach go for? And these girls basically just walked up and I'm like, okay, that one's for that person. That one's for that person. So all to say, yes, he does stray. And I think that in this case, the distance allowed him to understand and see that he wasn't really that compatible with Anaya, that he didn't really have that much to talk about with her. And the novelty of this new person. And I think this is also why he strayed, because it's such a powerful thing to be pursued, and he's never been pursued. He had to pursue the entire time. So I think she could have been, well, she is a beautiful woman, the girl he ends up with, but I think she could have been, I don't know, I think it could have been any girl with that same energy of, I'm here for you. I think he would have probably strayed just based on that validation that he was seeking, that he just never got from, in his case, he would say he never got from Anaya, that Anaya had to choose him. And I think that's been Casey's problem the entire time, in my opinion, when I watch how he moves. But you will see when you get to that point, we can come back and talk about how he went about it, because I think that's been a bone of contention for everybody. But yeah, Casey did stray. And if you don't mind, I'm going to actually ask you a couple other couples as well, too, because there's a couple of dynamics I want to discuss.
Okay.
Kenzie. So at the time you were watching it, who was Corbin. Kenzie with?
She's with so we just did the love letters, right? And she had two. She had Corbin and Caleb, but she gave her love letter to Corbin, and then she was that he said that he's starting to have feelings for her. And I do love them together. I just know that it is very sexually driven as well, and that sexual tension can make every conversation great, but you're not actually like connecting on a deeper level. You're just connecting on the sexual tension. So that's my 2 cents.
Surface. It's surface. Okay, so then, yes, Corbin's with Kenzie, and then Corbin gets a chance to go to Casa Amor. So based on what you've seen, does Corbin stay or stray?
See, but he chose Kenzie. He was like all for her. But I mean, his choice was between a bunch of close people and kind of Melanie, who was kind of close as well. So like, you know, Kenzie is his choice. But then also he has come in and been clear, like, hey, I'm here for the game. Like, I'm here to explore. And that's the name of this game. I have a strong connection, sure, with Kenzie, but so I'm wondering if he strays too. And you did kind of give something away, so I'm thinking he strays.
Oh, he strays big time.
Ah!
He strays big time. He strays big time. But here's the thing, and this is the question. I bring it up because I want to talk a bit about Kenzie and Corbin. So Kenzie also strays. She also strays. They both meet people, and I do wonder because you were saying like you enjoyed Corbin and Kenzie's relationship. It is a definitely physical relationship. Like that seems to be the strongest component of it to me as well. But I do wonder because Kenzie's kind of, and hey, no shade. I personally feel Kenzie and Corbin are kind of cut from a similar cloth, if I'm being totally honest. And I think they're both looking at compatibility a lot through chemistry. And who do I have the best chemistry with? And, you know, anyone who didn't check out the last episode, go back and watch that. We talked a bit about that. I do wonder with Kenzie if she will ever be satisfied. If Kenzie, to me, is on the right show on the wrong season. I feel Kenzie would have been amazing on like a previous season because I have a feeling this season of, I don't know, well, I think I know why. I think they're very aware, this cast, of how they're coming off. And how I think this cast is very aware of the online judge, jury, and executioner that's waiting for them when they come out of the experience. So more than any cast that I've been aware of, I feel they're hyper aware of how they're perceived. They're openly talking about America in their conversations.
Yeah.
So I think some of the boys were like, I'll look, but I'm not going to touch because I don't think that's going to look good when I go back to the villa.
Right.
And some, you could just see right off the bat, they were just no impulse control. They were just like, it was a hall pass for them. But Kenzie is interesting because she was also up on the chopping block because the boys were, so this would have happened before Casa Amor. The boys were kind of speculating, like, is Kenzie really here for love? What's her
is she
deal?
jumping around? She waiting for the next best thing? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, she waiting for the next best thing. So this is again where the whole idea of does absence make the heart grow fonder? I think back to original premise, it depends. I think it depends. I think this is one of those things where
what's already existing.
For Corbin?
Yeah, what's already existing. Then that absence, you know what? That's what it is. It's not absence makes the heart grow fonder. Absence intensifies what's already existing.
Yes, what's already there. And if the thing was a flimsy connection that was very tenuously held together by like sexual chemistry and lust, that's gonna fade once that kind of chemical cocktail sort of subdues. I think that's what's happening now with them. But we'll come back to them at a later date once you've had a chance to watch. But I was curious about whether or not we may judge Kenzie more harshly than Corbin just because she is a woman. And the way that she's moving this season, to me, feels like a previous season. She would have been an all-star in a previous season. I think it's a bad look for her on this season with this group that are moving in a very slow, methodical, like, I'm going to stick with my original person match kind of way.
Well, see, and I feel like, so I'll jump onto this because I think Kenzie has actually been pretty honest. Like when she was going between Corbin and Caleb, she was like, hey, I am exploring both. And I think I almost kind of feel like it's wrong for any of them to ask, did you kiss them? Because it's like well, you're going to be upset by the answer. So I'm going to lie to you because I don't want to upset you.
Yeah.
And this is where I think maybe we do harshly judge Sincere, because we did see him lie, right? We saw him talk to Soul and be like, yeah, you're the only one I want to explore. And then talk to Melanie like, oh, I really miss you and I think about you and da da da. But we get in that, like, we forget how it is to really tell somebody a rejection. Like, I haven't really been thinking about you. Or I like you, but I also am still thinking about this other person. Like, could he have been honest to Soul and said, I still think about Melanie? And how would she take that? Would she back off then? But then, she shot herself in the foot. That's what she said, basically, that she only went for Sincere. But again, everybody was closed off. So it's this weird combination of like, how honest can I be without upsetting you and then you distancing yourself, but me still being able to explore all of these options? So it's such a conundrum for these people. And that's why, that we judge Kenzie so harshly, or even Sincere that harshly. It's like, well, like, you wouldn't have liked the answer if I was honest. And this comes down to when people ask you for your opinion, what we really should start off with is, do you really want my honest opinion? Or are you wanting to hear what you want to hear? Like, are you really wanting to hear what I have to say? Or you're just hoping for what you want to hear?
That's an interesting position, because the minute someone says that to me, I already know which way it's going. Because that's like, you're bracing me, like you're priming me for something bad. Right. So you're right. I don't know if there's a way that you could say it that's not going to land. It's gonna hurt, right? It's gonna hurt, and it's a kinder to rip the Band-Aid off, or do you
come off as sleazy and backstabbing?
Kind of,
yeah.
And well, personally, I'm gonna ask you about Sincere as well too. I think that's gonna be maybe there's two other couples we're gonna play Stare Stray with, but since we're on the Sincere train, let me get on, and I'll just say that I've seen more than you. So so I do have to again always come back to the fact that my impression of him is based on what I have seen now. Yes. And I will say I'm not sure about Sincere. I think he's sincerely screwed.
Okay, I was going to say,
sincerely screwed himself.
How sincere he is he really that sincere?
I don't know. But again, we'll see, because to your point, it can be it's complex. Like, you're dating multiple people, but you're dating them in this freak experiment where they're watching you date other people.
Yeah.
And in the real world, we wouldn't be watching that. So he'd be kind of moving the same way. But the difference is that we have footage of him saying literally the same sweet nothings to Melanie. And then literally moments later, he's with Soul saying the same thing, using the same pet names, saying the same kind of superlative things. Like, I've never felt this way. And like, it feels... I don't know,
like, don't say those things. But
me.
Here was the other thing I was thinking about too. So what we do, and I don't know if we saw this example with Melanie and Soul and Sincere, but like, imagine somebody says to you, oh God, I'm so in love with you, I'm so enamored by you, and all of this, and you don't necessarily feel the same way yet. You could get there, but like, you're like, well, I'm still uncertain, like, and I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to distance yourself. Do I just say that? Do I just say it back and then, hope for the best? Or so I'm interested in that sense as well. But I don't want to give Sincere too much, because come on, like, be honest.
It's complicated.
It's so complicated.
I really, it is. I respect as well too that the empathy that you're showing, because these are people, we're obviously commenting on how they're behaving, and it's entertainment, but they are real people who are going through these emotions in real time. And I don't know if I would fare any better either. So I do appreciate your perspective there,
especially in such a
Sincere.
Freak environment. Like, have you ever been in anything like this? No, I've never.
Never. I mean, elements of what's happening, I'm sure we can all speak to the dynamics, or like having a love triangle, or, having to even be dating. The person to end, or I'm terrible at that. Like, it's just what you just said. It's like, oh, it's I anticipate the person's hurt, and like, I will be internalizing that. How can I minimize? But it's more about me. It's more like, I want to minimize my discomfort in making them. So it's a tricky thing. What I will say about this whole Sincere, Melanie, well, Soul's gone now, but on the subject of what happens later, Sincere, stay or stray, in your opinion? What do you think he's going to do at Casa Amor?
See, now
it's a tricky one.
It is a tricky one because I'm like, well, he's proven in the past that he's strayed in that sense. He also knows the name of the game, right? To try. But he just went back to Melanie, and is he like trying to really fix it, or like he doesn't want to get in the doghouse again and have to deal with all that drama again? Although maybe he likes the drama, right? You know, if you look at neurologically, sometimes we're like, yeah, I like the highs and lows, and we get stuck in that. And I say like is the wrong word because, you know, it's not always like, oh, I like this. It's, I hate this, but I'm so stuck in it. I'm going to say stray.
He stays.
Interesting.
He stays. Yes, isn't it? He stays. And Melanie does too. And Melanie does too.
Good for them.
Yeah. Is it though? We'll see.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
Because I mean, remember,
I don't know either.
I don't know if you did see what Jen talks about. Like, she's like, hey, I'm just worried about Melanie because if he lied to you, then he lied to Soul. I mean, is this a pattern? And I was like, yeah, you're right. Is this a pattern? You know, maybe he just didn't see what he really wanted to see, or again, he just wants to be the good guy, wants to people please, doesn't want to hurt. You know.
Yes, I think you nailed it. I actually think he just wants to people please. I think he means it. In the moment when he's saying these things, I think he means it. He wants to please, and I think that's what he's doing. I actually, we'll see what happens with those two. They're an interesting couple to watch as well too, because as you said, they have had a lot of highs and lows, but they were hot and heavy on night one when that door opened. They were all about each other.
It was like, okay, I mean, it's only been 5 hours. Come on.
Yeah, it's an interesting couple for me because on one hand, all the things we talked about, we don't even have to rehash. I'll just roll the clip, the B-roll at this point of Sincere making out with everyone. But curious about, you know, as a relationship coach, if this is a really bizarre scenario. I can't imagine. You have a lot of clients that would ask you the specific for specific advice on this, but let's just say someone was exploring an open relationship, being ethically non-monogamous. This might be kind of akin to this situation here, where they're asking about, you know, having a week away. Maybe it's a hall pass scenario. I don't know. But essentially, they're going to Casa Amor, or their partner's going to Casa Amor. If you were to sit down with them as a client, like, what would you suggest to them? What tips would you have for them? Is there anything that you think they should discuss? My partner is going to go to Casa Amor, and I feel some kind of way about it. What tips would you have for that person?
Well, my first thing is, what are you feeling? Does this feel like a betrayal to you? What that's telling you is how much you feel about this, and then how you feel like you feel about this person, how strongly you feel. Maybe you thought that you guys were having a connection further than maybe that other person feels. It can feel like a betrayal, and that's okay that you feel that way. You know, I'm not saying that that's wrong, but explore why you feel that way. Do you only like it because you don't like it because somebody's now touching your toys? Like somebody's taking away your toys? Is it because you feel duped in that sense that you thought you had a stronger connection? Or, you know, what is the betrayal you're feeling? If that's the feeling you're having. If you're having a feeling of like, yeah, I really want them to explore, maybe that's because you want to be reassured that like, hey, you saw all your options, but you came back to me, which means that we have a strong connection. Although, do you necessarily need to go out to know that we have a strong connection? So
that's the question.
Yeah. So
yes,
and that's where, you know, that would be a hard situation too. And it's funny because when I first got out of my previous relationship, I was like, it's going to be an open relationship. If I get into one, I'm never having a relationship again. But I think about it, you know, and there are some people who can do it. I am not one of those people, because it's like, either I don't feel that strongly enough about you that I'm okay sharing you, or I don't like people touching somebody that I feel so strongly about, you know? but also then it comes down to, like your level of jealousy and envy. Like, I don't, if somebody were to hit on my fiance, honestly, I would just be like, yeah, I know he's good looking. Of course. That's why I got him. And like, especially if he were to reciprocate and be like, I'm taken, my heart's taken, but I'm what's the word? I'm flattered, then it would be like, see, he's good looking. Other people want him, but he chooses still over and over, so I was like, open relationship, but then now realizing I don't know if I can do that. And so like, if somebody were to come to me, that would be something we would have to ask, is that something you can do? And I also am coming from a perspective of not being able to do that. So I don't know the perspective of people who can, because there are plenty of people who make that work, who make this, you have a connection with somebody else, and then you have a connection with somebody else, and you want to maintain both of them. And, I just, I go for hazelnut ice cream all the time. I don't necessarily go for hazelnut and bubble gum, like it's just, it's hard for me. It's hard for me, but that doesn't mean it's not for everybody. So, and the big thing is open communication. If you don't like that situation, you need to be upfront and realize that you being upfront might break it. It might break it. And it's just, it's now showing you that you want somebody to choose you. You want somebody to make you a priority, and this person is not that person for you, and that's okay. So it would come down to understanding yourself, how you feel about this, and being open and honest. And even though that might be hard.
Yeah, you have to be open and honest with yourself. Right. First and foremost, right? To be able to have that conversation. Yeah, I like what you're saying, because it seems like there's a lot more agency in this situation than, the situation might suggest. Like, it's like really thinking about, well, what do I want, right? Rather than centering around the other person. What are they going to do? Oh my God, I can't control any of that. But what do I want? And then having that honest conversation with yourself. I also am going to throw in, because when I'm listening to you say that, it reminds me that this is not something that we're seeing on the screen. We don't see them having conversations. And the way that this was done, it was done deliberately like that, I think, because they wanted to avoid opportunities for those conversations, as you're saying, right? Because if you suddenly go, oh my God, they're at Casa Amor, like there's no conversation you can have about what even constitutes cheating. Because I'm sure if they had conversations, maybe then you say, like, listen, I'm good with the kissing and the challenges, like, go nuts. Right. But if I see you cuddling someone in bed, I'm going to flip.
Or making them breakfast,
so I'm right. Flip. Making them breakfast? Are you kidding me? That's a bridge too far. Right. Right? Like, they're cheating is different. People have different ideas as to what constitutes cheating. So I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, that you would have to do a lot of self-exploration, but then also I think probably have a conversation with your partner to be able to understand, like, where are you both at in terms of how you feel? What are your expectations going into that kind of scenario? Because I agree with you. I've seen many couples who are ethically non-monogamous who make it work. Right. It's not my jam, I'll be honest with you. But then again, I think there is something perhaps aspirational about the idea that, yes, I have a connection with you, but I also have a connection with them. Right. And I support you having as many connections and as much love as you can draw for yourself. Right. Go for it. I want you to experience all that. So I get it from the perspective of someone who does like to be in, a polyamorous situation. I feel that seems like logically it makes sense. Like there's so much
we're here
love
to love
go around.
Everybody. Like, yeah,
just love everybody, and and then it kind of comes, you do your thing,
right? And then it comes down to the idea of like soulmates. Well, so we only have one soulmate. What happens if that soulmate's hit by a bus? Does that mean we just don't have a chance for love? So like to deny anybody. So this kind of comes back to the idea of cheating. And the school of thought I'm from is cheating is never out of the blue, in the sense that something has been going on that would lead somebody to do such a thing, and I'm not blaming the person who is cheated on by any means. It takes two to have a relationship, but there's something missing that would have some, unless if you guys just, you have a polyamorous thing, then it's not really cheating, right? But otherwise, there's something going on. There's a lack of communication. Needs are not being met. And I don't know if I could ever come back from that kind of a betrayal. It really depends on how it was and the circumstances. There are plenty of marriages that come back together. I was trained by Tony Robbins, and he has done so many examples of where there was a betrayal and they came back together. And it's just understanding this key thing that this didn't happen accidentally. There was a reason. Let's find that reason and either confront it, deal with it, move on and grow more, or realize that this was our connection is what shouldn't happen or should be done now, you know?
Yeah. It's run its course.
Yeah.
It's run its course. Oh, man. I mean, there's so much we can get into around cheating as well and all those conversations around it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of wrap up here, I want to give you one more couple.
Okay.
I want to hear your thoughts on stay or stray. Zach and Kata, because I think at that point in time, Zach and Kata, you would have seen they were going strong, right? So what do you think happened there?
However, there was, I just saw the challenge, the Princess Challenge, Prince and Princess Challenge. I saw that Caleb pulled Kata for a poll or for a talk. Somebody else said something like how Kata was like model-esque. So I was like, oh, you know, like some of these guys actually didn't get a chance to really explore Kata. Bryce tried, but he had already gotten into the friend zone, you know. So I just saw all of that, even though, and this is why I was like, dang, you know, you guys had such that great, and I actually really wanted to get into this in the sense that, because Bryce mentioned this about having friendship first and being able to laugh with each other, that can be so much more powerful foreplay than just having sexual tension.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that's why I have loved Kata and Zach so much, because they can check each other, be honest with each other, goof around, still be sexual. And that was a hard lesson for me to learn as well, that you can be your so crazy sexual fantasy self with somebody and still come back and be their best friend. For me, it was a hard thing to do. It's like, wait a minute. You just saw me, you know, with leathers and no, I'm just kidding. And now we're going to talk about, now we're going to go talk about, should we go play soccer or something? Like, I don't know, you know? So I had high hopes for them. I saw that they did this like, hey, you know, we're still both open. But then Zach got really jealous when Caleb pulled but then she said in her little like comment, she was like, hey, if he's not getting jealous, that means he doesn't care. And I'm like, oh, true. But it's like, how much do you get jealous, especially in this dynamic? I don't know. This is probably the hardest one you've given me so far. I would only say on Zach's side, I think he stays, but I think Kata would maybe stray. Not because I think badly of her. I just think that she is there to explore, you know.
Okay. So Zach stayed and Kata also stayed.
Okay. I was thinking she would, if anybody was going to stray, it would be on Kata's side, but I figured she would stay too, yeah.
But you know what, as you explain why you arrived there, I totally see that based on what you've seen. And I think Kata did say that she was open to exploring.
Yeah.
I do wonder, though, if she really was, though. I actually think she was just saying that because Zach was giving the energy of, I might explore, and I think she was just trying to protect herself. With those two.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. That for me is giving that kind of vibe with both of them. Because then he's trying to also play down his jealousy around things like the topless dance that Caleb gave to Kata.
Oh.
He's saying, I don't care. But he's going on about it a lot in multiple episodes. So I think he cares, like super cares. And I think Kata also super cares, but like they both don't want to appear bothered and they both want to be in control. And I feel like they know as well the other person is a hot commodity. So I think what you just said, I think protection. I think they're both playing that like, yeah, I don't care as much. I like you, but like, you know, I'm open. I'm still open. They're not open. Like they want the other person to be super not open, but it takes one of them to actually broach that conversation. I think they're both playing it a little bit cool, and having sex in the villa probably made it 10 times worse.
Oh God,
in the sense that
deeper connection. Yeah.
Oh, big time.
People who think that sex is a surface level thing, it's not. Even if it's a one night stand, energy is being connected. Energy is being given and received and exchanged.
Yeah.
So even if it is a one night stand, actually, I forget who told me this, and I'm not sure if it's really true. It's more metaphysical. But I had a friend tell me that the walk of shame afterwards that they typically give to girls who are walking back home with their high heels in their hand and wearing the dress from the night before. It's not really in the sense because they're wearing the same thing and they just had sex with somebody. It's because their energy has been stolen, because you have given it to somebody who didn't either give it back to you. Because I mean, if you're walking home, like, so yeah, the way she said it, I was like, oh yeah. And most of the time, those one night stands, you're kind of like, that was a decision I would go back and change.
Yeah. It's that's such an that's.
I know, right? I
love that.
Yeah, when my friend told me that, I was like, oh wow, yeah.
Oh wow, and so fascinating because you're right. I'm thinking walk of shame. I've never heard it
for a man.
Attributed to a man.
Never.
I don't think I've ever in my life heard attributed to a man. So that's very interesting as well. The Casa Amor situation, we'll have to come back to this once we're caught up because there might be something there to discuss around that double standard, which does come up in the conversation. For those of you who are up to date, we do see the return of movie night this season. And I can just tell you right now that the double standard around how the women and the men are moving came up in the villa as a point of conversation between the cast members. So we'll definitely come back to that note that you were playing earlier. I love that, and I think that's made me think. Yeah, I do not know any examples in pop culture of a walk of shame ever being attributed to a male. So very interesting indeed.
Right.
Yeah. Well, Heather, it's. Honestly, every single time we've had a conversation, I've always wondered, how have we talked for almost an hour? It just, the time flies by. But so it is when you're having fun. Thank you for being here. And I want to thank all of you for listening, for watching. Of course, if you like this conversation, then why not subscribe so you don't miss the next one? And of course, let us know in the comments, what are your thoughts? Does abstinence make the heart grow fonder? Or is it out of sight, out of mind? What's your experience been? We'd love to hear from you. And of course, as always, we'll see you next time. Alchemists, stay curious.